Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive.
And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 209 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. Glad to have you. This show is coming to you again from the Great White North, except it's not as white anymore. Temperature's going up a little bit, still cold, but not so much snow. And looking forward to spring arriving and everything warming up everywhere across the continent. Well, we've got a lot to talk about tonight on the show, and I'm going to get straight to it, but this show's called Blood Boiling Time. I've got some topics that are sure to make your blood boil, but also some other things that I'd like to talk about first of all. And to start off with, this sound you may recognize. Yes, we are going to talk about something that has been in the news a lot. Of course, yes, that is the sound of a jet. I want to talk about Malaysian Airways Flight 370. I know I mentioned it a show or two ago. It's been going on for that long. It's very sad now that the Malaysians have actually announced that, based on information coming from the British satellite company Inmarsat, they have done further calculations, and the pings that were coming at regular intervals from the aircraft to the satellite, they have decided that they were actually coming from the southern Indian Ocean. This means, there's nowhere to land there. You will have seen the stories on the news. It takes 4 hours from the nearest coast, Australia, to fly out to where wreckage has been sighted. They don't know whether or not it is the wreckage of MH370 yet, but it takes 4 hours to reach there. So big question is that wreckage from MH370? And if Inmarsat is right, why was Flight 370 flying down in that part of the globe, that very open, desolate, and very difficult place to find anything? Was it an accident? Was it deliberate? You might say, Stefan, you have a political show. Why are you talking about this flight? Well, I think there might be a political aspect to it. Of course, I can only go on what I've heard. I don't know how much of those are facts, how much of those are just conjecture. And anything that I'm going to put together is pure conjecture. But let's have a look at it. The flight was heading seemingly normal, and then all of a sudden turned in a different direction. Now, that could have been something catastrophic happening on the aircraft. Apparently, a couple of years ago, there was something very strange happened to an aircraft. Boeing doesn't like to talk about it, but had something to do with the software that has been changed, but they don't know whether or not it's been changed on this aircraft. Anyway, and they said something happened to the aircraft, the crew didn't know how to react, and that caused a very dangerous situation. So could it be that all of a sudden something strange happened here? Could have, but then you would expect the people the pilots to at least get some kind of emergency signal out, because unless it happens almost instantaneously, the first thing they're going to do is radio in and say, we've got smoke in the cabin, even if it's only that. So if there were a fire and very toxic fumes, they know to grab their oxygen masks. So could it be that? And when they called in, and there's some questions about the timing, but when they called in, apparently already some of the equipment had been turned off. Did it switch off by itself? Had it been burnt through? And they didn't know about it, and they were very calmly replying to that, or was it something done deliberately, and then they called in for the last time, then turned the aircraft around? Difficult to say. Simplest solution, and Occam's razor normally says go for the simplest solution. Simplest solution is that something happened. There was a fire, interfered with the aircraft's controls, with perhaps the oxygen in the aircraft, knocked everybody out, turned the flight around, and it headed off down to Australia. But with the up and down in the altitude, very strange. For it to reach that part of the southern Indian Ocean, it would have needed a lot of fuel. If it had been flying low, it would never have reached that far. So it went up, it went down to about 12,000 feet. At 12,000 feet, it uses a lot of gas, flew across Malaysia, flew across Indonesia, and then must have gone up to a higher altitude in order to end up where it did. Was that an accident? I don't think so. So Occam's razor says simplest solution, but it can't be the simplest solution. If there'd been a catastrophic failure of any kind, it would have definitely been a lot quicker, and the pilots might have had a chance to get something off, or the aircraft would have come down much earlier, and it would have been found. And to me, that might be the key. It would have been found. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and speculate, and I'm not a reporter, I'm a commentator, and so I'm going to commentate, and I'm going to do some speculation. But before that, I do that, a quick shout out to a friend of mine, Rex Reapy, a great author. Read his FEMA Camp series books, all available on Amazon. Say hi to Rex and his wife Marcia. I don't know if he's already in his new residence. Keep my fingers crossed that he will be soon. I'm just about to switch to a normal residence. I've been living in an RV for 4 months. I know Rex has been living in that kind of accommodation for a lot longer, and my hat's off to him. While we quite enjoyed the 4 months, we're glad to be moving into our house, and we're supposed to be closing tomorrow. A few problems, so still need some things fixed in the house, so it's been delayed till Friday, but over the weekend we will be moving into the new Patrick Come Lately studio, and next week's show should come from the new studio, hopefully. Anyway, so hi Rex, thanks for coming, and anyone else, do join me in the chat room. Little green speech bubble at the bottom of the screen there, click on that and you can join us in the chat room. Let me know what you think, or if you have questions. Anyway, back to MH370. And as I said, the key seems to be, why did the aircraft end up in the southern Indian Ocean? If it had been an accident, it probably would have come down a lot earlier, would have been a lot easier to find. And as I said before, it's that easier to find. So here's my speculation. The captain of the plane received a strange phone call just before he left. Does that have anything to do with it? I don't know. He was estranged from his wife, so it could have been his girlfriend giving him a call. It was from a throwaway phone and with an untraceable SIM card, even though in Malaysia, to counter terrorism, they have people register when they buy phones or SIM cards. But in this case, apparently a false ID was used. So something fishy there, but does that sort of hang the guy? No, I don't know. But still strange. He was also known to be a good friend of one of the major opposition leaders in Malaysia. And the Malaysian government is not very nice to the opposition, and he's recently been in court, a lot of people say on trumped-up charges, and had been indicted and was being sentenced. So the captain was probably not very happy with the government. Might that have had an impact on things? Possibly. What if, for some reason, the captain wanted to embarrass the Malaysian government and cause them to have to spend a lot of money? And what might that be? Well, if an aircraft got lost in the southern Indian Ocean, that's going to be a fortune to find it. It cost hundreds of millions of dollars to recover the Air France one that crashed into the Atlantic. And that one, they knew roughly where it was. And in spite of that, it still took a boatload of money, if you'll pardon the pun, to actually bring up those pieces of the aircraft and find out what happened by bringing up the flight data recorders. So, do we have a case here of this pilot who for some reason wanted to commit suicide, wanted to embarrass the Malaysian government, perhaps, or did he set the plane on a course and then himself jump out of the plane? Also possible. I don't know. Anything is possible. But let's suppose he did, for whatever reason, decide to commit suicide. And like I said, Occam's razor says that might be the simplest one. I don't know what his mindset was, whether he was really so annoyed at the Malaysian government or whether there are other things, his private life. Who knows, maybe he'd lost a lot of money. We don't know. I mean, things like that have happened before. There was a Silk Air flight, a Singapore-based company that crashed, and at the time, all they could find out was the likelihood that the pilot that was flying it had lost a lot of money, was basically bankrupt, and had basically just flown the plane into the sea as well. So there are precedents for that kind of thing. So the pilot decides he's going to commit suicide, but not only that, he's going to do that in such a way that will embarrass the Malaysian government, who he doesn't like, and will cost them a lot of money. What better way to do then than to fly the aircraft into the South Indian Ocean? But of course, if he does that, somewhere along the line, people in the cabin might cotton on to what's going on. So what does he have to do? He has to somehow incapacitate those people. Now, there are stories, I haven't had them substantiated, that the plane did go up to a very high altitude, 45,000 feet, which is higher than it's supposed to fly, kind of at the top limit that it can fly. If you were to do that and then open some of the vents in the aircraft, let all the oxygen out of the aircraft, people will very quickly die. Now, there are oxygen masks that pop down, supposedly automatically. I don't know whether in the cockpit, on the flight deck, whether it's possible to turn off the power to those things and stop them from popping out. If that happened, then the people in the cabin would die very, very quickly. So here's a way to stop people from realizing that something's wrong and trying to batter down the door of the cabin, perhaps using the food carts and breaking in and stopping the flight from ending up in the ocean. So what do? You basically kill everybody. Now, if he was going to be doing a suicide, he would very likely also just let the oxygen affect him. Before doing that, he could have programmed the aircraft to go up to 45,000 feet, then to come down, fly low over Malaysia and Indonesia towards the Indian Ocean, and then turn south and head to where most likely it crashed, and just keep flying till the plane ran out of gas and basically just dropped into the sea. As I said, why would you do that? Well, knowing that it would then be difficult to find, the Malaysian government would incur lots of costs, lots of countries would help them out, but at the end of the line they're going to come to Malaysia and with the bill and say, we helped you out, here's the bill. So maybe that was his thinking of doing that. as I said, stop the people from intervening in this hijacking by killing them all, by sucking all the oxygen out, perhaps killing himself as well, and with the autopilot program to go in a certain direction, off he goes. He goes at a lower level, 12,000 feet, across Malaysia, across Indonesia, because that's an intermediate level, and it's unlikely that he will interfere with any of the flight lanes there. So on the radar they won't be too confused, because if he's at a flight level not answering, then they would also there would be questions. But at that lower level they might think it's a plane which is coming into land somewhere or taking off from somewhere, and he has less chance of running into other traffic. And then once he gets out over the Indian Ocean, the autopilot is programmed to go back up to a much higher level, probably 35,000 feet or something, so the fuel will last a long time, and then he drops into the sea in the roaring 40s, which is going to make recovery very difficult. So folks, that's my suggestion. Like I said at the beginning, this is a political program. What's the politics in it? Well, the politics is, of course, the fact that this pilot doesn't agree with the politics of the government of Malaysia, and might be doing this to sort of punish them or to cause them an embarrassment. I don't know. Like I said, this is all just speculation. And, there you are. So just my idea on that particular thing. And time for a new topic. Like I said, I'm going to have some blood-boiling topics a little later on, but before we get to that, we had one serious topic. I want to have one that's slightly less serious, and for this I want to thank that very great radio talk host, and I talk radio host, and I do miss him on the radio, Neil Bortz. He was really one of the best, and since his retirement, and when he does fill in, I love to listen because he is really one of the best. But he's now writing some columns, and his most recent one talked about racist elephants, and I thought it was such a good one. I'd like to take some things from it for you. And he said that he wanted to write a column about elephants, not the GOP kind of elephants, but real elephants, wild African elephants living in Africa. These particular elephants live in one of the national parks in Kenya, and they've been subject to some quite intense studies. And he went on to say the elephants in question live in close proximity to two different African tribes, the Maasai and the Kamba. The men from these tribes differ in dress, language, and more importantly, how they treat elephants. The Maasai men sometimes kill the elephants. They like to hunt elephants. They are hunters. They also herd cows, and the elephants sometimes walk into the herds of cows and scatter them. So the Maasai don't really like elephants. The Kamba men, on the other hand, are gentle farmers who live among but don't threaten the elephants. They don't kill them. Who knows why that is, but they don't. Now, remember, the Maasai men do not attack elephants every time they encounter one, and some Maasai men, perhaps the majority, never find cause to kill an elephant. However, the elephants know by experience that a greater threat exists from the Maasai than from the Kamba men. So how does this affect the elephants? Well, the studies they did went as follows. Maasai men like to wear red robes. Kamba men normally don't. So when the elephants see men in red robes approaching, they react defensively. Usually they flee, or they'll form a defensive perimeter around their young. When the Kamba approach the elephants, they're just totally unconcerned and just go around their business. The elephants don't just notice differences in dress, though. They also hear differences in human dialect. The Maasai and Kamba have two very different, distinctive vocal and dialect differences, distinctive enough at least that the elephants can recognize them. The researchers played recordings of Maasai and Kamba men saying, "Look, look, over there, a group of elephants is coming." When the elephants heard the recordings of the Kambaman, they took notice, but exhibited no obvious fear or anxiety. When they heard the voices of the Maasai men, the reaction was different. The elephants fled and once again moved to protect their young. So obviously the elephants know what they're doing, and they adjust their reaction to what they're hearing or seeing. So what's going on here, said Neil Bortz. We have elephants altering their behavior when encountering different African tribesmen. Sometimes they go into a defensive mode based on a visual clue, the red robes, or an audio cue, the speech patterns. Other ones cause them no distress whatsoever. Has it struck you yet? Come on, folks. This isn't really that difficult, said Neil Bortz. These elephants are profiling. They're basing their reaction to encountering different groups of men based on past experience. Members of one group are more likely to be dangerous to the elephants than members of the other, and they react accordingly. Now, for any liberals listening, Neil Bortz wants me to explain what the obvious is. There is no real difference in the elephant's negative and defensive reaction to the red robes of Maasai than a person's reaction to someone wearing a hoodie or gang apparel on the street. There is no difference between the elephant's heightened sense of alert upon hearing a particular speech pattern over our reaction to hearing dialects identifiable as coming from inner-city gangster culture. Skin color? It's not a factor. In case you don't know it, the Maasai and Kamba are both black. Neil Bortz puts in a slightly humorous thing here. Can't really call them African Americans for obvious reasons. Anyway, experience instructs. People and elephants learn. When elephants exhibit this behavior in the wild, it's an occasion for marveling at their intelligence. When humans exhibit this behavior in high crime areas, it's called racism. Folks, time for a break. I will be right back after these messages coming right now.
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have one car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And thanks for sticking with me through that break. It is now blood boiling time. And the first of the blood boiling topics is this. It turns out, and you may remember, I did mention on the show a while back, a lady was arrested for the felony charge of admitting to having voted 6 times in Ohio. 6 times, no less. This is a felony charge, and under federal law, actually should be subject to a prison term of up to 25 years. So, here's the blood boiling. The Department of Injustice has decided that no charges will be pressed against this lady. She will not be charged with a federal felony crime as she should be. Can you believe that? Oh, unbelievable. But it gets worse. Last week, Al Sharpton actually was at a meeting, a voting rights rally in Cincinnati, and she was brought up on stage and he embraced her. Can you believe that? So the left are hailing her as a hero. Before you know it, the regressives are going to push her forward as the Rosa Parks of voting. I can see that happening. And by the way, yeah, so her votes 6 times for Obama. Voting more than once is a 25-year federal prison offense. So 6 times, maybe she should have gone to prison for 150 years. Now, so Sharpton brings us to this voting rights rally and hails her as a hero. And the Justice Department doesn't do anything about it. It just shows that if you're black and Democrat, you can get away with murder as far as the Justice Department is concerned, or almost murder. I think, 25 years in jail. Many people who have committed murder have less than that, so you can get away with a lot. And this is just encouraging brazen criminality and making a mockery of our election system. And it's just another example of Holder's Department of Injustice basically excusing lawlessness in elections and immigration and this and that. But if you're a right-wing person and you happen to step off the curb when you're not supposed to do it, the full weight of the federal Justice Department will come down upon you. She was actually, this lady, Meloise Richardson, was charged with state voter fraud crimes in Ohio. She was found guilty and sentenced to 5 years in prison. But after serving 8 months, she was actually set free. After 8 months, because she was allowed to plead no contest to 4 counts of illegal voting, and then for the 5th one, that was her 8 months in prison. She was represented in the appeal by a George Soros funded group, surprise, surprise, which claimed she suffered from bipolar disorder, although they made no claim that she was insane when she committed her election crimes. No, because if she was insane, then her vote shouldn't have counted anyway. Nor was any effort made to establish her insanity. And she certainly didn't look insane when she was up on the stage with Sharpton. Now, she could still be she could still be subject to federal criminal charges even after a state court conviction, because that does not imply double jeopardy. Those are 2 separate things. Again, lawyers have deemed that that's so. You might sort of say, well, that's really actually the same, that is double jeopardy, but they've decided no, state and federal are separate things. So you can get convicted for state, and then you can still get charged and even convicted for federal crimes, or you can be found not guilty in the state, but the federal can still come after you. Remember, that's what they wanted to do with our friend in Florida who shot the young black guy. So there you are. There are substantial tests for that, and whether or not it should be a federal matter, and her and Richardson's case is very obviously one. So why does the Department of Injustice not bring those charges? They do it in all sorts of other situations. Why not in this? Well, it's very simple, folks. I'll tell you. It's because she's black, and it's because she's a Democrat. And you say, well, you can't say that she's black, that's racist. No, I'm sorry. That's the truth, because Holder is the one that is making justice a racial tool, a racial way of punishing whites and getting reparations, if you like, for everything that. I'm not going to say that what happened to them in the past wasn't bad, but I thought we were past that. I thought we were out of the racial society into the multiracial society, but obviously Holder doesn't think so. Okay, time for the next break, folks. Stick with me. I will be back right after these messages.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And thanks for sticking with me through that break. Just a quick reminder here of who I am.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
And another quick reminder, regular listeners will know at the bottom of the hour, I like to remind folks that you can reach me a number of different ways. I do like feedback from my listeners, and if you email me or contact me via the different means that I'm going to let you know in a moment, I do like to reply, and I will also try and handle your questions or comments on the air in a future show. So for the moment, if you do want to send me a question or a comment, here's how you can do it.
If you would like to comment on any of the topics discussed on the show, please email me via stephen@patriotcomelately.us or go to the show's website, www.patriotcomelately.us, and click on the contact button. You can also write your comments on the show's Facebook page. Just search in Facebook for the Patriot Come Lately Show.
And Now let's get back to the news, and I've got some more blood boiling. This next topic is one that actually in a way is quite old, but it turns out people have found out that in 2009, when King Barry took over the White House, I'm not going to say got elected to, because we all have our doubts about that, but anyway, he took over the White House and he wrote a secret executive order that is now only just now coming to light, that basically said any Freedom of Information Acts, FOIA Act requests that involve not only the executive branch but any other government activity that the executive branch could fabricate a reason for caring about, they would have to be intercepted and reviewed by the White House staff. According to a report that was issued last week by a government watchdog, Cause of Action, an unpublicized memorandum from Gregory Craig, who was White House counsel at the time, instructed all executive agencies to consult with the White House counsel's office on all document requests that may involve documents with White House equities. This need to consult with the White House arises with respect to all kind of document requests, including congressional committee requests, GAO requests, judicial subpoenas, and FOIA requests. And this is the most transparent government in history. Excuse me. In 2010, the AP, and they're not particularly right-wing by any means, uncovered how the Department of Homeland Security had also blatantly politicized the FOIA Act requests by having senior political appointees review requests. For at least a year, DHS detoured requests for federal records to senior political advisors for highly unusual scrutiny, probing for information about the requesters and delaying disclosures deemed too politically sensitive. This is nearly 1,000 pages of internal emails that the AP finally did get through a FOIA request. Apparently, the department has abandoned the practice after the AP investigated, because inspectors from the Office of Inspector General quietly conducted interviews to determine whether or not these political advisors had acted improperly. In other words, you've got all these career bureaucrats there, and then you bring in some political advisors, and they are the ones that are doing all this scrutiny. And again, this term White House equities was implied. What's a White House equity? Basically, it can be interpreted anything that might touch or affect or impact the White House, right? Under what authority is that term defined? And under what authority is the White House review permitted? None. This has also been handled by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, and of course Jason Chaffetz sits on that, and he was questioning Mary Airy Callahan, the Chief Privacy Officer of DHS, about the meaning of White House equities. And he asked her about that. He says, let me read another paragraph. He's reading from some emails. 2 exceptions require White House review. Request to see documents about spending under the $862 billion stimulus law and the calendars for cabinet members. Those required White House review. And he asks, is that correct? Ms. Callahan says the calendars, anything that has White House equities would require White House review. Chaffetz says, what is a White House equity? What does that mean? Callahan replies, in the circumstances with the Secretary's calendar, to the extent she was in the White House or that was a disclosing sort of element. This is a typical process for referring FOIA requests to different departments. I mean, folks, can you believe that this is going on? It may be their underlying records. That is a standard process throughout the... Chaffetz interrupts. The other part of that is under the $862 billion stimulus. Is that also part of the White House equity? Ms. Callahan says that is correct. Chaffetz, why? Why does that require a special White House review? Sir, I'm the chief FOIA officer. I'm not a policy person in this area. So that is a directive that you got from the White House. I believed I was instructed by the Office of the Secretary to do that, and we processed it. Anyway, so this is 3 years after that testimony. The Cause of Action group confirmed that the source of authority that required special White House review was indeed that memo that they obtained from the Department of Injustice. Right? The counsel to the President reminding departments and agency general counsels to send to the White House for consultation all records involving White House equities. Now, this practice is not new. In 1993, the DOJ instructed agencies to send White House originated records to the White House counsel's office whenever they were located in response to FOIA requests. But big difference. What's the difference between a White House equity and a White House originated record? To a certain extent, I can understand a White House originated record, executive privilege, etc. But White House equities, that's a very broad net. But remember, this is the most transparent regime in the history of the world. Yes, of course. Now, folks, don't you think that this is time that we wake up and see what this corrupt, untrustworthy regime is doing, destroying this country? I mean, this is just absolutely untenable. Why we stand up and allow this to happen, or I should say, why we just sit down and allow it to happen. We should be standing up and saying, no more, no more, throw the bombs out. We should be gathering in Washington in our millions and saying, throw the bombs out. There's a group trying to generate an American spring. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be nice to think it would, that we could generate enough enthusiasm to get people to Washington and really to try and throw the bombs out. Now, I know this government would probably use that as an excuse, say lawlessness, and to clamp down on everything and give them an excuse to do it. But oh boy, we need to get rid of these people. It is absolutely unbelievable what they are doing. So, folks, absolutely untrustworthy. What do we do about it? Well, we spread the message. Tell folks about these sort of things. Tell folks what's going on, because only this way can we persuade those fence sitters to vote for the correct side of the fence, of the ticket, and bring in people who are going to help us stop these sort of excesses. Okay, folks, time for our last break. So if you will stick with me for just another short break, I will play these messages and I will be right back.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
And this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, thanking you for joining me tonight. We're in the last segment of the show. We've talked about all these blood-boiling topics, and folks, if that doesn't make your blood boil, then you must have ice in your veins, because these things, just more and more coming out about this totally corrupt, this totally untrustworthy regime that is dismantling the great country that we know and love. Folks, we really have to do something about it. November is coming. Please spread these messages. That's what this show's about, getting the message out. A lot of this you know, some of it you don't, but you may know it. But make sure that what you hear on the show, tell others about it. Ask them to investigate. And a lot of this, go and do your own research and find out if what I'm saying is true, or if there are people who say there's another side to the story. Please do your research. But do the research and then spread the message, because I think the more you dig, the more you're going to find that this regime is just unbelievable. Okay, folks, however, I do want to give you a little bit of good news. A couple of weeks ago, Idaho signed a law, the Idaho governor, Butch Otter, signed a law to nullify federal gun laws, and this is shortly after they also signed a campus carry bill, which means that students on campus now can carry guns, and campuses are not gun-free zones, which means that they're open season for gun nuts. And there are gun nuts. There are people who will use guns, nuts who will use guns to kill people willy-nilly. And where do they go? They go to the gun-free zones because they know nobody will stand up to them. So now colleges are not the place to go because in Idaho the students can carry. Anyway, but the main one was the fact that he signed the bill, which should pass the House and Senate in Idaho unanimously, 68-0 in the House and 34-0 in the Senate. So unanimously been passed, which nullifies future federal gun laws. The new law prohibits state enforcement of any future federal act relating to personal firearms, firearm accessories, and ammunition. Now, Gun Owners of America, a big group that's, if you like, competition to the NRA, praised the measure and by signing the nullification bill into law, Idaho has joined an elite group of states that are telling the feds to get lost, especially when it comes to unconstitutional gun control laws. And now Idaho joins an elite group, at the moment just Alaska and Kansas, which have also passed similar nullification laws. So hats off to Idaho there. Anybody from Idaho listening, hats off to you, your state government and your governor. Congratulations on an excellent decision there. Okay, let's see. We do have just a few minutes left, so let's talk about something else. Many of you will know that the Tea Party uses the Gadsden flag, the Don't Tread on Me, the bright yellow Don't Tread on Me flag, as one of their major symbols. It's definitely known as the Tea Party, conservatives, anti-government type flag. In fact, the left are so scared of it that they have actually taken that flag and are trying to co-opt it for their own use. Organizing for America, yeah, that's the so-called non-profit group founded out of Barack Obama's former campaign group, has taken that and is making a bumper sticker and other kinds of stickers that is bright yellow and has the words "Don't tread on my Obama curse." Well, they don't use the word Obama curse, but I refuse to use the correct word. You can guess what they put on it. "Don't tread on my Obama curse" on there. And also they have coiled up a stethoscope, much like the rattlesnake that's on the "Don't Tread on Me" flag is coiled up. They have the stethoscope. You see, folks, the Gadsden flag, the Tea Party, is making such an impression that those folks have to try and steal our symbol and co-opt it for their own. At the very least, they'll make some confusion, although the good side is they are kind of making that yellow with the coiled rattlesnake even more famous, so there's always a positive side to it. But it really shows you how scared the left is of the Tea Party, and everybody says the Tea Party is dead. No, folks, we are not dead. We are definitely continuing to be very, very active, and the Gadsden flag will fly everywhere. And just wait till November when we have some huge gains in those elections. Gadsden flags will be out everywhere, not just the red, white and blue, but also the yellow, folks, and be proud to fly that flag. It is a true American flag, as well as being one that represents the Tea Party. Okay, folks, we're getting close to the end of the show. I want to say thanks to those of you that have listened live. Just a reminder, if you can come back next week, do try and participate in the chat room here. Say goodnight to Rex, who's leaving, and thanks for his comments on the show. But also, if you're listening live, do try and get into the chat room. Let me know you're there. It's nice to know people are out there, that I'm not talking into a black hole. Of course, I do know most of my listeners come through other channels. They come in through the through Red State Talk Radio Network, and also now being broadcast live on AM radio 620 KTFL in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So if you have friends in the Phoenix, Arizona area, tell them to listen to KTFL. You'll hear a bunch of good hosts, because KTFL is rebroadcasting a stream from Primo Mondoni's Red State Talk Radio Network, and of course Patrick Come Lately does appear in there. The last schedule I saw, somewhere around about 11 or midday on a Sunday afternoon, but also overnight during the week, you should be able to catch Patrick Come Lately out there. Next week, we'll see what will happen. I hope that the show will be coming from the new Patrick Come Lately studio, aka my new house, but if not, then perhaps from the mobile studio, our RV. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you being there all the time and listening. Keep those emails coming. Love to hear from you. And here we go, folks. Time to say TTFN, ta-ta for now. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.